A tale of love, pain, and destiny told in the voice of the ancestors. When the moon wears her silver crown and the talking drums sleep, there are stories that rise like smoke from the hearth, stories that remind us that ashes are not the end, but the beginning of fire. Long ago in the kingdom of Alaro, where the river Oran danced like a serpent through fields of yam and millet, there stood the Red Palace, home of kings and the seat of pride. But beneath its gold and marble, under the laughter of the nobles, there lived those whose names were never called, the slaves of the Red Palace. Among them was a girl named Kemi. She was not tall, she was not proud, but her eyes, they carried the sorrow of 1,000 rains. Her skin was the color of roasted kola, her hair curled like forest vines, and her hands were rough from washing the feet of those who spat on her. Each morning before the cock crowed twice, she would sweep the courtyard where the princes walked, her bare feet tracing silent prayers on the red dust. And on her left ankle, tied with a faded string, hung a dull anklet made of ashes, old, fragile, strange. The other servants mocked her. "Kemi, daughter of smoke," they laughed. "Why wear ashes like a charm? Are you a spirit's child?" But Kemi only smiled with her small, tired lips and said, "It is the last gift of my mother." She said, "Never take it off until your destiny calls your name." They laughed again, for who speaks of destiny when you scrub pots and fetch water? But the old cook, Mama Tenny, sometimes looked at Kemi with eyes that carried secrets. "Child," she would whisper, "the world hides many faces. Even a chicken egg looks ordinary, until the chick sings from within." That night, as the drums of the palace celebrated the upcoming festival of fire, Kemi sat alone by the river's edge, her reflection shivering on the water. She dipped her foot in, washing the day's dust away, and whispered to the moon, "If there is a God who listens to slaves, tell me why I was born to serve." The wind sighed. The water rippled. And somewhere beneath the ripples, her anklet shimmered faintly, a dull glow like an ember remembering what it once was. Kemi gasped softly, thinking her eyes deceived her. But then she heard, faint and far, a whisper like a woman's voice. "My child, the day you walk through fire, the ashes will remember who you are." The voice faded. The river stilled. Kemi looked around, but there was only the sound of night crickets and the smell of palm wine drifting from the palace walls. She clutched her anklet and wept quietly. That night, she dreamed of a woman wrapped in smoke, holding her as a baby and singing an ancient lullaby of kings and loss. When Kemi awoke, her cheek was wet, but she could not tell if it was from the dream, or from tears that had fallen in her sleep. In the Red Palace of Alaro, dawn was never silent. Drums spoke to the rising sun, horns called the guards, and maidens in wrappers of bright indigo hurried to prepare for the king's morning rituals. And in the midst of this brightness moved Kemi, barefoot, quiet, carrying a heavy calabash of water upon her head. The courtyard shone with gold dust. The statues of past kings glared down like silent witnesses. And beyond the carved gates, the royal gardens stretched, wide and lush, filled with hibiscus, lilies, and the whispers of peacocks. Kemi had no reason to enter the gardens. Slaves were forbidden there. But that morning, one of the senior maids sent her to fetch palm leaves for sweeping. From behind the prince's garden, the woman had said, smiling with cruel amusement. They often made sport of Kemi, sending her to places she should not be, hoping she would get caught and punished. Yet Kemi went. Because hunger and fear walk side by side, but hunger for freedom often walks faster. The garden was silent, save for the music of crickets. The dew kissed her ankles as she bent to gather the leaves. And then, hiss! A sound sharp and sudden sliced the air. Kemi froze. Out of the tall grass, a serpent rose, black as night, its scales glistening like oil. It coiled ready to strike. Her heart pounded like a talking drum. The calabash fell. But before the snake could leap, a figure sprang from the shadows, tall, swift, dressed in white linen and gold. A young man holding a spear, his eyes fierce yet bright. With one smooth motion he drove the spear through the serpent's neck. The creature fell. The garden grew still again. Kemi fell to her knees, trembling. "Thank you, my lord," she whispered, her voice shaking like dry leaves. I didn't mean to enter." The young man turned to her. His face was strong, carved like the statues of the ancestors, yet soft in expression. His lips curved into a faint smile. "You should not be here," he said, his tone gentle but commanding. "This is the royal garden." Kemi lowered her gaze. "Forgive me, my prince." He blinked, surprised that she recognized him. Indeed, this was Prince Adewale, heir to the throne of Ilaro. Beloved by his people, feared by his enemies. "You know me?" he asked. "Who does not know the lion's cub?" she replied softly. "Even the stones know your name, my prince." Adewale laughed quietly, not mockingly but in wonder. There was something in her voice that stirred him, a kind of humility that did not beg and courage that did not shout. "And what is your name, little dove who walks where serpents hide?" "Kemi," she said, still kneeling. He gestured for her to rise. "Do not kneel to me," he said. "The gods have already taken your fear as offering today." She rose slowly, eyes still lowered. The morning light kissed her face, and for a moment, the prince saw the strength behind her quietness, the beauty that did not boast. "You have brave eyes," he murmured. "Bravery is what remains," Kemi said, "when tears have finished their work." The prince stared at her, silent. In that instant, something old and forbidden began to bloom between them, a spark neither dared to name. He helped her pick up the calabash, his hand brushing hers. She flinched, not from disgust but from the strange warmth that touched her chest. "Go," he said finally, "before the guards find you here. If they ask, tell them I sent you." "Yes, my prince." She turned to leave, but his voice stopped her once more. "Kemi," he said, tasting her name like something sacred. "Do not walk with your eyes always on the ground. Even the lowliest seed looks up when it wishes to become a tree." Kemi said nothing. But her heart was no longer silent. That night, as she lay on the cold floor of the servants' quarters, she could still see his eyes, warm like dusk, deep like the river. And though she told herself it was foolishness, something in her spirit whispered that destiny had just stirred. Days turned into weeks after the garden encounter, but neither heart knew rest. Kemi, the slave girl with the ash anklet, carried water through the palace, yet her mind floated like smoke. Each time she passed the royal courtyard, she felt his gaze upon her, unseen but burning like the sun behind the clouds. Adewale too tried to banish her from thought. He practiced swordsmanship till his palms blistered, rode his horse till sweat drenched his royal robes, but her face followed him everywhere. Her voice, her humility, the courage in her trembling, all clung to his soul like the scent of wet earth after rain. One afternoon, when the sky was heavy with the promise of rain, Kemi was sent again to the gardens to fetch herbs for the royal cook. She hesitated, for her heart still carried the memory of the serpent, but duty has no ears for fear. As she bent to pluck leaves of scent leaf, a shadow fell across her path. She turned, and there he stood, Prince Adewale. The air between them stilled. The garden seemed to hold its breath. "My prince," she said, bowing quickly. "Forgive me again." "No," he interrupted, smiling faintly. "This time I sent for you." Kemi's heart stumbled. "You sent for me? A slave?" "A woman," he corrected gently. "Not a slave. Not to me." She looked up, startled by his boldness. The prince's eyes softened. He reached forward, plucking a fallen leaf from her hair, his fingers brushing her skin, light as a whisper. "I should not be here," she murmured, stepping back. "Nor I," he replied, "yet here we stand. Perhaps destiny does not care for the walls of men." Kemi's throat tightened. "Destiny is cruel," she said quietly. "It makes a slave dream of a prince, and a prince weep for what he cannot hold." Her words struck him deep. For a long while, they stood in silence, the first raindrops beginning to fall like tiny drums upon the leaves. Then came the thunder, low, rumbling like a god's laughter. Kemi shivered. She moved to cover the herbs in her cloth, but suddenly the sky burst open. Rain poured down in torrents. The prince took her hand. "Come," he said, pulling her beneath a carved stone shelter near the sacred pond. They stood close, drenched and shivering. Water dripped from her curls, ran down her arms, and the anklet on her ankle gleamed, not the dull gray it usually was, but faintly golden, like fire trapped in smoke. Adewale noticed it. "Your anklet glows," he said, eyes widening. Kemi looked down and froze. The ash-like beads shimmered faintly as if alive. The glow pulsed softly like a heartbeat. "It happens sometimes," she whispered. "Only when I am afraid, or when I dream of my mother." "What kind of anklet is that?" he asked. My mother gave it to me before she died, Kemi said. Her voice trembled like the rain. She told me never to take it off, not even if the world mocked me. She said, one day it will tell me who I am. The prince frowned, fascinated. Who you are? Yes. But I am only a slave, she said bitterly. Perhaps she only wanted me to have hope. Adewale took her hand again, gently this time. Hope is no small thing, he said. Even kings build their kingdoms on it. For a moment, time folded around them. The rain, the pond, the thunder, all melting into a rhythm only their hearts could hear. Then Kemi gasped, softly, sharply. From the anklet, a whisper rose, faint but clear. A woman's voice like the echo of memory. Kemi, my fire-born child, when your heart trembles, the heavens listen. Your blood is not meant for chains. The prince stepped back, startled. Did you hear that? He asked. Kemi's eyes filled with tears. I did. I always hear her voice when it rains. Your mother? She nodded. Or her spirit. The rain eased, but the air between them grew heavy, not with fear but with wonder. The prince looked at her as though seeing her for the first time. You are not who they think you are, he said softly. And you, my prince, she replied, are not who they think you will be. That night, neither slept. In the prince's chamber, Adewale sat by his window, listening to the storm. In the servants' quarters, Kemi lay awake, her fingers tracing the faint warmth still left in her anklet. And somewhere beyond the clouds, the spirit of a forgotten queen smiled sadly. For the wheel of destiny had begun to turn, and when it turns, even kings and slaves must bow. The rains had passed. The gardens of Alaro bloomed again, sweet with hibiscus and pride. But in the women's courtyard of the Red Palace, another flower withered, Queen Iridi, the second wife of the king, mother to none, guardian of appearances and fear. It was she who ruled the other women with her sharp tongue and her sharper gaze. And she had eyes everywhere, in the kitchen smoke, in the market gossip, in the servants' trembling. So when her spies whispered that the air of Alaro lingered too often near a certain slave girl, her heart became a pot placed upon a fire. A slave? She hissed. A boy born of my husband's crown consorting with a broom girl? Never. She called her maid, Tayo, whose ears were long and loyalty short. Find this girl, she commanded. Bring her before me when the moon rises. That evening, while the moon climbed slow and yellow, Kemi was pulled from her straw mat, dragged through the corridors like a goat bound for market. She did not resist. Her anklet pulsed faintly beneath the dust, but she stayed silent. The queen sat upon her carved stool, dressed in wrappers the color of anger. Around her neck hung beads that clicked like tiny bones. So, she began, her voice sweet like poisoned palm wine. You are the one who has enchanted my prince? Kemi knelt low. I have enchanted no one, my queen. I am only what the gods made, a servant. A servant who makes a prince forget his duty, the queen sneered. Tell me, what medicine do you use? What charm hides in that dirty anklet you wear? Kemi trembled. It is no charm, my queen. It is my mother's. Silence. Iridi's voice cracked like thunder. Tomorrow you will be punished before the palace eyes, so others may remember their place. She waved her hand. Guards seized Kemi. That night, they tied her to the whipping post in the courtyard where the morning sun would witness her shame. But the gods do not sleep when injustice wakes. In the quiet of the night, Prince Adewale learned what had been planned. He ran through the corridors barefoot, cloak undone, heart pounding like a drum of war. He reached the courtyard just before dawn. Kemi was there, her back to the post, her face lifted toward the pale stars. Her eyes glimmered not with fear but with something deeper, sorrow mixed with calm. Kemi, he whispered, cutting her ropes. Who did this? Your stepmother, she said quietly. But do not defy her, my prince. You must not risk your crown for me. He touched her cheek, his fingers trembling. What is a crown if it costs my soul? She shook her head. You speak as if the world is kind. But I am a slave, you are the sunrise. We cannot share the same sky. Then let the sky burn, he said. Their eyes met, and in that moment love forgot fear. But footsteps echoed. Torches flared. The queen had returned, guarded and proud, her mouth already curved in triumph. Ah, see, she said. Even now he hides her. The prince of Alaro disgraces his blood. She raised her hand. Guards, take her away. Let her be exiled beyond the forest by dawn. If she returns, she dies. Adewale stepped forward. Mother, please. You will inherit a kingdom, not a beggar's love, she snapped. If you challenge me, I will tell the king you are bewitched." Her words struck like spears. Kemi reached out, touching his arm lightly. "Let me go," she whispered. "Perhaps destiny will remember me where men forget." And before dawn she was gone, led beyond the palace gates into the mist where the forest waited like an open mouth. That morning the prince stood on the palace balcony as the first sun rose over the red walls. He could still smell her, smoke and rain and courage. In his hand, he held a single gray bead that had fallen from her anklet when the ropes were cut. It glowed faintly, pulsing with a warmth that would not die. The guards led Kemi through the gate before dawn, where even the roosters had not yet found their courage to crow. They tied her hands with coarse rope and carried a torch that spat and hissed like anger itself. Beyond the red palace lay the wild country, fields of whispering grass, and beyond that the Agbedo forest, feared even by hunters. It was said that the spirits of forgotten slaves wandered there, still searching for justice. "Walk," one of the guards grunted. "And pray the forest is merciful." She said nothing. She only lifted her chin toward the distant horizon, where the first hint of morning painted the sky like bruised fruit. When the guards turned back, leaving her to the silence, she fell to her knees. She took a handful of earth, pressed it to her chest and whispered, "O mother of dust, if this land remembers your child, let it not swallow me." Her anklet, that humble circle of ashes and gray beads, flickered faintly. The ashes within it glowed like sleeping embers, as if the spirits of her ancestors had opened one eye to watch. Days passed. Kemi wandered deeper into the forest, her clothes torn, her feet bleeding. She drank from streams, ate wild roots, and learned the language of silence. But at night the forest spoke. The trees groaned like old women gossiping. Owls sang in human voices. And sometimes in her dreams she heard her mother's lullaby, soft as smoke. "Child of dust, child of dawn, do not fear the road that burns. For fire makes the heart clean, and ashes feed the gods." Each time she woke, tears wet her face. She thought of Prince Adewale, his eyes like brown fire, his voice trembling with defiance. She wondered if he still remembered her name, or if palace life had swallowed him whole. Yet even in her pain she could not hate him. "The heart that truly loves," she murmured, "does not curse the storm, it learns to dance in it." One evening, when the air was thick with the scent of rain, Kemi stumbled upon an old shrine, swallowed by vines. Carved faces stared from the stones, some human, some not. A cracked pot sat at the base, filled with ancient ash. Something called her closer. Her anklet pulsed again, brighter now, the glow deepening to a crimson heartbeat. Then came a voice, low, ancient, neither male nor female. "Daughter of forgotten chains, why do you weep upon my threshold?" Kemi froze. Her knees trembled. "Who speaks?" "The one your mother served," the voice said. "The spirit of ashes and rebirth. The keeper of hidden destinies." The ground shivered. The ash pot split and a gray mist poured forth, coiling like smoke until it formed a shape, a woman's figure cloaked in flame and dust. "Your mother's blood binds you to me," the spirit said. "She bargained her freedom for your future. But destiny, my child, does not bloom without pain." Kemi bowed her head. "Then let the pain bloom if it must. But tell me, why does the world crush those born of low dust?" The spirit smiled, slow, terrible, gentle. "Because they forget that dust is what even kings are made of." She lifted her hand and the anklet blazed. The ashes turned to silver light, swirling around Kemi's ankles like living flame. "You carry both curse and gift," the spirit whispered. "When the time comes, your sorrow will open the path to your crown. Until then, walk the road of ashes, the road that your mother could not finish." Then the light dimmed. The forest fell silent once more. But Kemi's heart was no longer the same. It beat with a quiet fire, something between grief and destiny. That night, as she lay beneath the wide African sky, she looked at the stars and whispered, "If the gods still write my story, let their ink be tears and courage." And somewhere, far beyond the forest, in the golden palace of Ilaro, Prince Adewale dreamed of a girl walking through fire, her anklet glowing like a fallen star. He woke with her name on his lips. The palace of Ilaro glittered like a serpent basking in the sun, but peace had fled from its courtyards. For though the drums beat and the courtiers laughed, Prince Adewale's heart was no longer among them. He walked through the marble halls like a man half awake. The taste of Kemi's name still lingered on his tongue, bitter, sweet, forbidden. Every time he looked toward the western hills, where the forest began, his chest ached as though an arrow of memory still lived there. The queen noticed. Queen Iridi was no fool, Her eyes were sharp enough to slice through shadows. She saw how the prince's smile had grown brittle, how his hands trembled when the slave drums played. "He is bewitched still," she muttered. "No woman of dust will take the future of Ilaro from my womb of silence." So she went again to the oracle of Ogenstream, carrying kola and gold to buy the truth. The oracle, old and blind, sat before a river that whispered secrets to the gods. His beard was the color of moonlight on ashes. "Great Mother Iridi," he croaked, "you come with fear in your footsteps." "A spirit girl has bewitched my son," she said. "Tell me how to break the spell." The oracle touched the water and listened as it rippled. When he spoke again, his voice was heavy with knowing. "You cannot break what was written before birth. The prince's soul is tied to one who walks the path of ashes. Her pain will crown him, her love will test him. If you destroy her, his throne will fall to dust." Queen Iridi's heart tightened. "Then I will silence the forest before she returns." She left with fire in her eyes, and behind her, the river sighed like a tired god. That night the prince could not sleep. Dreams of Kemi filled his mind, her tears, her courage, her fading form in the mist. When he woke, sweat drenched his brow, and the gray bead she had left him burned in his palm. He rose, dressed in plain hunter's garb, and called his loyal friend Ogunlai, the son of a palace guard. "I must find her," Adewale said. "If the forest has swallowed her, then let the forest swallow me too." Ogunlai frowned. "My prince, your stepmother watches every shadow. If you vanish, she will send the guards after you. Then let her. I have lived my whole life as a prince, now I will live one day as a man who loves." And so, before the cock crowed, he left the palace by the northern gate, riding a horse black as night and silent as sin. He traveled through villages where the people bowed but whispered behind him. "The prince seeks a ghost," they said. "He hunts love where spirits dwell." Days turned to nights. The sun burned his neck, the wind carried only silence. But the gray bead glowed faintly each time he faced the west, guiding him like a compass made of longing. One evening, as the moon rose fat and low, he reached the edge of Egbedo Forest, the same forest that had once swallowed Kemi whole. There he met an old woman sitting beside a dying fire, her eyes cloudy, her hair the color of smoke. "Traveler," she rasped, "the forest does not welcome those who walk with broken hearts." "Then let it break me completely," Adewale said. "For I have come to find the one I love." The old woman chuckled softly. "Ah, love. The only madness the gods do not cure." She stirred the fire with a crooked stick and whispered, "Listen well, son of Ilaro. Beyond these trees lies your destiny, but also your trial. You seek the girl of ashes, yet to find her you must face what burned her. The queen's curse follows you, like smoke after flame." Then she tossed a handful of powder into the fire. The flames roared high and shaped themselves into an image, a girl standing beneath the stars, an anklet shining upon her feet, surrounded by shadows that whispered her name. The old woman's voice deepened, like thunder inside a mountain. "She carries your fate and you hers. But the crown of ashes is forged only in pain. If your love fails, both of you will be lost, neither slave nor prince, but dust between worlds." When the fire died, the old woman was gone. Only the echo of her words lingered, floating like smoke into the dark canopy. Adewale bowed his head. "So be it," he whispered. "If dust is the price of love, then dust I will become." And with that he stepped into the forest, where trees leaned close like watchers, and the wind whispered a name that the night itself could not forget. Kemi. The forest swallowed Prince Adewale whole. For 7 days, he wandered through thorns and whispering trees, through paths that turned upon themselves like coiled serpents. The gray bead on his necklace pulsed each night, leading him deeper into the green heart of silence. Sometimes he heard voices, soft lilting laughter that melted into the wind. Sometimes he saw shadows that wore faces he almost recognized. But always, his heart beat toward one direction, westward, where the air smelled faintly of ashes and rain. On the 8th dawn, he came upon a river that shimmered not with water, but with mist and smoke. It curled upward in slow, ghostly ribbons, veiling the trees in silver fog. The air hummed with power. He knelt beside it, weary and trembling, and cupped his hands to drink. The moment his lips touched the smoky surface, a voice rose from the river itself. "Who drinks from the river of memory must remember all his pain." He gasped, staring at his reflection, and in the rippling surface, he saw not his face but hers. Kemi. Her eyes looked out from the water, full of sorrow and fire. "Why did you come?" her voice echoed. "You should have forgotten me." "Forget?" he whispered, tears filling his eyes. How can I forget the one who taught my soul to breathe? Then the mists parted and she stood there, upon the opposite bank, alive but not the same. Her hair was longer, streaked with silver ash, her skin glowed faintly, touched by spirit light. And around her ankle, the once dull anklet now burned like a ring of living flame. She wore a simple wrap of woven grass, and yet she carried herself like a queen of storms. For a moment they simply stared at one another. The slave girl who had walked through exile, and the prince who had defied his crown. The forest seemed to hold its breath. "You found me," she said softly. "No," he replied, stepping closer. "Love led me." But as he crossed the shallow stream, the air grew heavy. The smoke thickened. Between them, a figure began to form, the same spirit of ashes who had once spoken to Kemi. Her voice rolled like distant thunder. "So, the child of crowns has followed the child of dust." Adewale knelt instantly. "If you are the keeper of her fate, then I beg for her freedom." The spirit's laughter shook the trees. "Freedom? Foolish prince. You cannot free one whose destiny binds yours. She carries a burden of sorrow that was not meant for mortal love." Kemi lifted her chin. "Then share it with me," she said. "We both have walked through fire." The spirit's eyes glowed brighter. "Do you understand what you ask? The price of your union is pain. For love between blood and dust invites the jealousy of heaven." Adewale reached for Kemi's hands. "Then let heaven be jealous. I have lived in gold and found it hollow. I would rather die in her arms than rule in emptiness." The spirit was silent for a long moment. Then she raised her hands. The river roared. Ashes swirled around them like a storm, painting their faces with gray. "So be it," she whispered. "You have chosen the road of ashes. Your fates are one, bound until the last ember fades. But remember this, even love's fire needs sacrifice to keep burning." And with that, the spirit vanished, leaving only the soft hiss of smoke and the pounding of two mortal hearts. Kemi and Adewale fell into each other's arms. No words could fill the space between their breaths. Their silence was full of tears, laughter, disbelief. "You have changed," he whispered against her hair. "So have you," she said. "But your eyes still carry the same storm." He smiled faintly. "And your voice still sounds like rain before harvest." For that night they made camp beneath the watchful trees. The forest sang a soft lullaby, half sorrow, half hope. They spoke of their dreams, their fears, their lost time. And as dawn broke, they held each other, two souls reborn in smoke and flame, knowing that their love was both their gift and their curse. But far away in the red palace of Alaro, Queen Iridi woke from a dream filled with fire. She saw in her vision the prince kneeling beside a girl with an anklet of light, and the crown melting in his hands. She rose from her bed, her face pale with rage. "So it begins," she whispered. "If the forest will not destroy her, I will." And the drums of destiny began to sound again, slow and deep like thunder rolling across the savannah. The dawn in Alaro came blood-red. The palace drums that once sang of joy now muttered of unrest. Queen Iridi stood before her mirror of bronze, her face hard as carved stone. For 7 nights she had dreamed the same dream, a girl of ashes crowned in fire, standing beside her son while the palace burned. And each time she woke, her rage grew teeth. "So she still breathes," she hissed. "That cursed slave girl defies me even from the forest." Her attendants knelt low, afraid to meet her eyes. "My queen," one whispered, "shall we summon the sorcerer of Oyo Hills?" "Yes," said the queen. "Summon them all. I will smother this fire before it devours my house." That evening, under a crescent moon, the sorcerer Ajanaku came. His robe was woven of black feathers, his eyes gleamed like oil. He carried a staff tipped with a skull that murmured secrets in forgotten tongues. "You seek to silence love," he said, his voice low as a drumbeat. "That is a dangerous wish." "I seek to protect my throne," Iridi snapped. "Name your price." Ajanaku smiled, "A slow, terrible thing." "Price? Everything born of love costs blood. Bring me a lock of your son's hair, and I shall weave a storm to tear her from his heart." The queen hesitated. If it must be done, it must. And so she gave it, her hand trembling not with guilt but hunger for control. The sorcerer began his work, chanting beneath the moon. He ground bones, mixed ashes with palm oil and whispered into the wind. "Let the forest turn against her. Let love turn to sorrow. Let her heart forget joy, her path turn to darkness." The wind howled. The sky split open. From the flames rose a black bird, a spirit of ruin, flapping its wings toward the west, toward the forest where Kemi and Adewale slept. Far from the palace, deep in the woods, the lovers lay beside their small fire. Kemi's head rested upon Adewale's chest. But as the night deepened, a strange chill crept through the air. The trees began to whisper in tongues that carried no warmth. Owls flew backward, the river turned gray and sluggish. Kemi stirred. "Something is wrong," she whispered. "The forest breathes fear tonight." Then came the sound, a shriek that tore through the dark like a blade. A shadow swept down, the black bird, its eyes red as burning coal. It struck at them, wings flapping, air trembling. Adewale rose, drawing his blade. "Stay behind me," he shouted. The creature dove, claws flashing. Sparks flew as his sword met shadow. But it was no mortal beast. Its body was smoke, its voice a curse. "The queen commands, the road of ashes must end." The bird's talon raked his shoulder. Kemi screamed and rushed forward, lifting her anklet. It blazed bright, brighter than fire, and with a cry she flung it into the air. The anklet spun like a burning circle, and struck the bird squarely in the chest. Light exploded. The forest roared like thunder. When the light faded, the bird was gone, but so was the anklet. Only a scattering of cold gray ashes remained at Kemi's feet. She fell to her knees, trembling. "It's gone. The gift of my mother, my only protection." Adewale knelt beside her, blood trickling down his arm. "No," he said softly. "It saved us. Perhaps the spirit's gift has done its work." But Kemi looked up, her eyes wide and full of dread. "You don't understand. That anklet held the last promise of my bloodline. Without it, my fate is unguarded. The queen's curse can find me now." And even as she spoke, thunder rolled through the sky, not natural thunder, but one that carried laughter, cruel and echoing. The voice of Queen Iridi filled the storm. "Run if you can, lovers of ashes. Your path ends where your hearts begin." The rains came heavy and wild. Kemi and Adewale fled deeper into the forest, lightning flashing behind them. Their hands clasped, their steps stumbled, but neither let go. All around them, the forest seemed alive with fury, branches clawed at their clothes, rivers swelled into torrents, wind screamed through the trees. "We can't fight this," Adewale shouted over the storm. "We must find shelter, before the queen's magic tears the sky apart." They found an old tree hollow wide enough to hold them both. Inside, soaked and shaking, they huddled together as thunder shattered the heavens. Kemi pressed her face to his chest, tears mingling with rain. "Adewale," she whispered, "if we die tonight, promise me you will not let my name vanish from the songs of the world." He kissed her forehead gently. "I swear it, your name will live longer than the palace walls, longer than any crown." Outside, lightning flashed, and for a brief instant, the shadow of a woman appeared among the trees. It was the spirit of ashes, watching, silent, sorrowful. "Every love must pass through fire," she murmured, unseen. "But even fire cannot burn destiny." When the storm finally died, dawn rose pale and cold. The forest lay broken, trees split, rivers swollen. The lovers emerged, weary but alive. But something had changed. The anklet was gone. The spirit's protection had faded. And far away in the Red Palace, Queen Iridi smiled in triumph, her heart black with satisfaction. "The girl's charm is broken," she told her mirror. "Now let her crumble like dust." Yet the gods were not done. For even ashes, when stirred by the wind, can rise again. The rain stopped, but their sorrow did not. For as the forest dried, Kemi's body began to fade. At first it was only a weakness in her limbs, a trembling when she walked. Then came the coughing, deep, hollow, as if her lungs were filled with ash. Her eyes lost their bright fire, her laughter grew thin like smoke before dawn. Adewale tried to hide his fear. He built her shelters from leaves, fetched water from hidden streams, hunted small game with his bare hands. But no matter how many herbs he found, her strength withered day by day. "It is the curse," she murmured one night, shivering despite the warmth of the fire. "When I cast away the anklet, I gave the queen power to reach me." Adewale gripped her hand tightly. "Then we will find a new spirit, one who can heal you. I will not lose you, Kemi." She smiled faintly, eyes half-lidded. "You cannot fight the gods with mortal hands, my prince. But you can love me until the last ember fades." He turned away, his jaw tight. "No. Love without hope is a cage. I will bring you salvation even if I must steal it from the heavens." At dawn, he left her resting beneath the sheltering tree and followed the river east, toward the old lands of the diviners. Each step was agony. His mind was a drum of worry. He crossed villages, begged for charms, offered his royal pendant for a cure, but every healer shook their head. The curse of a queen, one said, is not undone by herbs. It can only be broken where it was born, in the palace that cast it. The word struck him like thunder. He knew what he must do. He must return to Alaro, face his stepmother, and steal the magic that chained Kemi's life. But as he prepared to turn back, a sudden cry rose behind him. He ran, heart pounding, through the forest until he reached their clearing, and found Kemi collapsed by the tree, her skin pale as moonlight. He dropped to his knees beside her. Kemi? Kemi, open your eyes. Her breathing was shallow, her pulse faint. She touched his cheek weakly. Do not grieve. I can see the other side calling, the place where the spirits sing and my mother waits. No, he shouted, tears burning his face. You cannot leave me now. You are my world. But she smiled through the pain. Then carry my world with you. If love is true, it never dies, it only changes its name. Her body trembled, and the ground beneath her began to glow faintly, a soft, gray light seeping from her skin. The ashes that had once lived in her anklet rose into the air, swirling around them like glowing dust. Adewale's hands shook. What is happening? A voice answered, the spirit of ashes appearing once more in the dim light. Her form was sorrow itself. The curse has reached its peak, she said. Her life burns low. But a choice still remains. Adewale turned to her, desperate. Tell me what to do. You can take her place, the spirit said. The curse will pass into your blood and she will live. But if you choose this, your name will be erased. You will become dust, a shadow forgotten by history. He stared at Kemi, her trembling lips, her fading eyes. The forest blurred behind his tears. He remembered her laughter, her defiance, her gentleness beneath the hardest days. Take me, he whispered. Let her live. The spirit studied him for a long moment, then nodded slowly. Love has spoken. So be it. She reached out, placing one hand upon his chest and another upon Kemi's. The air thickened. The ashes swirled faster, brighter, until the world turned silver white. Kemi gasped, life rushing back into her lungs, while Adewale's breath grew shallow. She reached for him, panic in her voice. No. What have you done? He smiled weakly, brushing a tear from her cheek. I told you I would steal your salvation from the heavens. His body shimmered, fading like smoke caught in sunlight. Remember me, he whispered. Let the songs carry my name where the wind forgets it. Then he was gone, only a soft scatter of ashes left upon her palm. Kemi fell to the earth, wailing, a cry that shook the forest and made the spirits weep. But as dawn rose, a calm filled her heart. She felt his warmth in the wind, his voice in the rustle of the trees. And when she stood, the ashes on her palm glowed faintly and formed a new anklet around her ankle. The anklet of ashes reborn, now carrying his spirit within. Far away in Alaro, Queen Iridi awoke to find her mirrors shattered, her power gone, her palace trembling. She screamed, but no sound left her throat. The gods had taken her voice, her punishment for breaking hearts meant to be whole. The people whispered, the prince is gone. The slave girl walks with the spirits. The crown will never be the same. Kemi rose from the soil where she had wept, her feet heavy, her heart hollow. The anklet around her ankle shimmered like liquid silver, alive, humming softly as though it breathed with her. She felt him there. Adewale. His spirit whispered through the leaves, in the sigh of the wind, in the rustle of every palm frond. Walk, my love, the voice said. Your destiny waits where it began. And so she walked. Days turned to weeks as she journeyed across rivers and villages, barefoot, clothed in a white cloth she had woven from forest cotton. Where she walked, ashes fell softly behind her and grass grew anew. Children called her the spirit bride, elders bowed their heads, sensing the power that walked in her shadow. One evening she reached the borders of Alaro, the kingdom that had birthed her pain and stolen her name. Smoke rose above the hills, the palace that once gleamed red now stood dark and broken. Queen Iridi's rule had fallen to madness and plague. The land was weeping. Kemi's eyes filled with tears. The drums that once mocked her were silent. The courtyard she had swept as a slave were cracked with neglect. But she did not come for revenge. No. She came because love must finish what it begins. She entered the palace gates, her steps soundless as the night. The guards who saw her trembled and fell to their knees. She walked through the same corridors where she had once carried basins of water, through the same halls where laughter had once scorned her. Now her silence was the only command. At the center of the great throne room sat Queen Iridi, older, thinner, her beauty eaten by regret. When her eyes met Kemi's, she gasped and clutched her chest. "No, it cannot be. The slave girl?" Kemi's voice was soft, but it carried the weight of thunder. "The same one you sent into exile. The same one your envy cursed. The same one your son loved more than his crown." The queen's lips trembled. He is dead. The gods took him. I did not know." Kemi raised a hand and the air shimmered. The anklet glowed bright. Ashes spiraled into the air, swirling into the faint shape of Adewale's spirit, tall, radiant, calm. His voice, gentle yet firm, filled the room. "Mother, I am not dead. I am only what your cruelty made me." Queen Iridi fell to her knees, tears flooding her cheeks. "My son, forgive me." Adewale's spirit turned to Kemi. "Forgiveness is hers to earn, not mine." Kemi looked at the queen, at her shaking hands, her hollow eyes, and she felt no hatred, only a deep, aching sorrow. "You taught me pain," she said, "but pain taught me love. You buried me in ashes, yet from ashes I rose." The queen bowed her head and whispered, "Then teach me how to rise too." Outside, thunder rolled. The sky cracked open and poured down rain, the first in many moons. It washed the dust from the walls, the blood from the streets, the sorrow from the air. And as the rain fell, Adewale's spirit reached out one last time, brushing Kemi's cheek like wind. "Your journey is complete, my love. Live for us both." Then the light faded. The anklet cooled. And silence returned. The people of Alaro, seeing Kemi emerge from the palace, knelt before her. She no longer looked like a slave, nor a spirit, nor a queen, but something in between. The council elders called her the keeper of the ashes. They begged her to rule, but she refused. "A crown is too heavy for a heart that has already carried fire," she said. "Let me serve the people, not rule them." So she stayed, healer, guide, and legend. Under her care, Alaro rose again, not by gold or power, but by wisdom and peace. And every year, during the Festival of Fire, they told her story, the tale of the slave girl who wore ashes and became the light of a kingdom. Years later, when Kemi's hair turned gray and her hands trembled, she walked one last time to the river where her story began. She knelt by the water, smiling softly. "You see, Mama," she whispered, "I did not forget the song." The anklet of ashes pulsed once, twice, and then dissolved into the water, leaving only ripples that shimmered like stars. The river carried her name to the sea, and the sea carried it to the sky. To this day, in the land of Alaro, when the moon shines full and the wind smells of rain, mothers tell their daughters, "Wear your pain like Kemi wore her anklet, with quiet strength, for even ashes remember how to burn." And the griots still sing her story beneath the baobab trees. A slave who became a queen in spirit, a lover who walked through fire, a woman who turned sorrow into song.